But we should say at least companies before were sharing this because this was a metric they were proud of. Companies don't seem to be as proud of their net retention rates anymore, huh?
So the first flavor of this is just announcing that you're done with it. So Fastly did this in their Q1 2024 10Q. So Kyle, I went back with my friend Claude. I had to actually upgrade my plan. I went through 82 different software companies and their quarterly disclosures, so 4 per year over the last 5 years, and compared. I flagged Fastly on this one. They just said, we're done with this. We're just not going to include it anymore. And they did it at a time when their net dollar retention wasn't free fall.
They were probably one of the first that was just like, we're just going to stop reporting on this.
Yeah, like conveniently didn't make sense for them anymore after it had dropped more than 30 points.
So Fastly started playing fast and loose. Who came next?
CrowdStrike, they're a perfect example. So from their IPO in 2019 through April of 2023, every single 10Q contained the phrase above 120%. So keep that in your head, above 120%. So you know it's at least 120, could be 123, could be 128, could be 150. But starting in July of 2023, the language suddenly changed to, quote, consistent with our expectations. And then it changed to in line with our expectations.
You know how many lawyers probably reviewed that?
Do you know how many dollars of attorney fees were paid to make that packet of words?
Does consistent with our expectations mean above 120%? Probably not. It probably means their expectations lowered, but then they came in at the lower expectation.
I call this flavor of moving to a premonition. We had a premonition that this would be a shitty quarter, and therefore it's in line with the shittiness that we expected.
This is like when you ask a psychic something, you look at your horoscope and it's like something that everyone can be like, yeah, that's probably true.
The fourth flavor is changing the cadence. So you don't have to just stop disclosing. You just stop doing it every quarter. And so Doximity reports net revenue retention once a year now. They do it once a year on March 31st. If you're an investor in FY 2022, you're like, this is amazing. This company has 157% net dollar retention rate. They just report every quarter. So now you got to wait a year. They come back later and they're like, hey, folks, it's 117. You're like, dude, you dropped 40% in 12 months.
Did they give an explanation for that? Or they're just like, it's still good?
Encino did the same party trick. They went from 148% in FY 23 to 117% in FY 24. So they plummeted by 31%. So it fluctuates too much. We don't want you to get confused. Like they can play it off like, oh, it's going to cause so much noise. You're going to misunderstand the business. But then they just drive it straight off a cliff when they report it 12 months later.
So everyone was really proud about this metric and bragging about it when they had 130% plus net retention at its peak. So you looked at 82 companies. How many companies had 130% plus retention?
Your boy created a graphic to share here.
I report a y-axis crime mostly because of the decimals.
Stop it with your questions.
All right. So yeah, how many companies at its peak were in the 130 club?
16 companies out of the plus 80 I mentioned were claiming NDR of over 130. Like if you were in the top quartiles, like you do over 130%. And the same thing, like the peak was at Q4 of 21 and Q1 of 2022. And you remember how the vibe shifted in Q1 of 2022, right?
Things change very quickly. All right. So it peaked at 16. How many are in the 130 club today?
Went down sequentially, went 11 to 10 to 10 to 5 to 3 to 2, back up to 4, then down to 1. And then we went 6 straight quarters at 0 companies out there reporting net dollar retention of over 130% until Q3 of 2025. Palantir is riding this AI story, and they're like, hold my beer. We're the only company over 130.
I'm curious what this would look like if you looked at like the 120 club. Like what is is there a threshold where like once they get below a certain number, they just stop reporting it?
I think it's once you're below 110% as a mid-market or SMB company, and once you're below 120 as an enterprise company. I rarely see the threshold used that's not 110, 120, or 130. And remember, the 130 threshold is it got thrown out. In Datadog, 14 quarters, like we said, above 130, they were using that threshold. Then it got moved down to 120. But there are some publicly traded companies. I think Toast says over 110.
What's the thought process around this threshold? Is it like if you're above these numbers, it's a good metric, and once you're below that, you're kind of like below average and you just don't want to call attention to it?
Yeah, it's two things. The first thing is that it's understood by public investors and the sell side analysts that like, hey, if you deal with SMBs and you're over 110%, check mark, you're good. But the second thing is they don't want to report 111 one quarter and then 110 the next and be like, that should be a reason for the stock price to move and it represented a degradation in the business. Or a better example would be if it fell from 115 to 110. They'd rather just say it's 110 or higher. Nothing has actually changed within the business. Maybe there's seasonality. It's hedging to say, yes, we're checking the box, but we don't want to give you a number that you're going to overreact to.
Of the 82, how many are still reporting any sort of net retention metric?
Yeah, to keep it simple, more than one quarter of the companies originally in the data set 5 years ago have stopped reporting it entirely.
A lot of companies are no longer reporting net retention. Of the ones who are still doing it, what does their net retention look like? Where are we as an industry?
So we peaked at 124%, and that was in Q2 of 2021, went down by a couple points, then re-peaked around 123, 124-ish in the start of 2022. And then since then, it's been a downward slide. And so the trough was 108% in Q4 of 2025, and today it's 110%. So from peak to trough, it's been 14 percentage points at the median.
It's going back up, or at least stabilized?
It is stabilized. It's not going back up. It's been constant for 3 straight quarters at 110.
This is just of the companies that are reporting it. The average of the ones reporting is probably higher than like the average of every company. But even still, like basically this is indicating things have probably stabilized, but stabilized at a lot lower level than where they were in 2021.
And so the top quartile, like we said, 130-ish%, your top quartile, that has also come down 14 points. And what's fascinating is then the median came down 14 points and the bottom quartile came down 15 points. So it's kind of like you had this penthouse, right? Where it was these companies at like 150% totally blowing it out. That has been completely deleted. It's not there anymore. And then you take all the quartiles, everyone, Kyle, in this apartment building that I'm describing basically just shifted down one floor by 14 to 15%.
When I looked to set up my first CRM at Growth Unhinged, I knew I wanted something that was actually AI first. The world has evolved. Most CRMs are still stuck in the 90s. I found Lightfield, the CRM that remembers everything and does the work for you. It joins all my sales calls, reads my emails, and has the full context on every account. At this point, Lightfield knows my deals better than I do. I haven't had to set up a single CRM dashboard. Instead, I simply ask Lightfield questions like, which deals in my pipeline are most likely to close? Or who do I need to follow up with today? It even automatically prepares me for meetings with a personalized daily briefing, and setup was quick and surprisingly painless. Lightfield is my sales coach, RevOps analyst, therapist, EA, all in one. See Lightfield for yourself with a 14-day free trial. Connecting data from your inbox takes just 5 minutes, and you can migrate in under an hour. Go to lightfield.app, that's LIGHTFIELD.app, and use code MOSTLYGROWTH to get 3 months free.